So you may or may not have noticed, but we are 4 betas into iOS and iPadOS 18, and we've even gotten the public beta releases of these softwares, but Apple Intelligence is still not in any of these updates. Apple did announce it at WWDC as an iOS and iPadOS 18 kind of situation and feature, but it looks like it might get pushed over to 18.1, but Apple might be doing something kind of interesting where they're releasing the beta program of 18.1 earlier than the public release of iOS 18. So Apple Intelligence could be coming to the developer beta as early as this week. Let's talk about it. So if you remember, during WWDC, Apple spent a good maybe hour or hour and 15 minutes on the back half of the presentation talking all about Apple Intelligence and what to expect from it, what it's going to do to your day-to-day, how it's going to be integrated. They talked about a little ChatGPT integration as well, how Siri is going to get much smarter, and then a bunch of smaller features like Genmojis and playgrounds, and again, all these different Apple Intelligence and AI assistant type of features that most people have now gotten used to over the last couple years because of the introductions of things like ChatGPT and other platforms. So Apple bringing it in to the iOS, iPadOS, and just the Apple ecosystem in general was a big deal and a big bet. So Apple wants to make sure that they're going to be doing this and doing this correctly, because last thing they want is a terrible PR nightmare of maybe some crazy Apple Intelligence feature that goes kind of haywire and creates something that maybe they don't want to have been created on their actual software and hardware. So because of that, Apple's taking their time releasing Apple Intelligence, and it looks like, according to Mark Gurman, that Apple's going to be pushing it to the 18.1 release that's not going to be releasing until probably October of this year. But if you do want to get your hands on Apple Intelligence earlier than that 18.1 public release, it does look like Apple's going to be doing something a little bit different when it comes to the beta program. So like I mentioned earlier, we are now in the 4th beta of iOS and iPadOS 18, and there's still no Apple Intelligence, but it looks like Apple's going to be releasing 18.1 beta 1 as early as this week, kind of foregoing the continuation of 18.0. So there might be either 2 betas going simultaneously, or Apple's just going to set the RC edition as 18.0 the way that it is, focusing on some of the iOS 18 features that have nothing to do with Apple Intelligence, like the new Photos application, the new Passwords app, all those new iMessage features like being able to schedule things and inline replies and things like that. So Apple's going to be focusing on 18.0 in that version that's going to be releasing in September, but then at the same time, it's going to be testing 18.1 in the beta fashion, which is something that I'm going to be jumping on immediately, even if it is on a beta 1. But even as Apple begins to slowly roll this out with their iOS 18.1 Beta 1 program, they're still going to be staggering the release of the Apple Intelligence features overall. So you might notice that with the Beta 1 that we're going to be getting some of the smaller features like Genmojis, as well as the Apple Intelligence Playground, which is more of a nice to have feature set as opposed to something that's more mission critical, like the Apple Intelligence ChatGPT integrations and the new Siri integrations, right? When it comes to the Genmojis and the Playground, this is going to be more of a for fun feature. It's not going to do anything from a day-to-day function standpoint or efficiency standpoint. You're going to be able to create these cool little scenes and create them in different kind of ways and functions. Having maybe yourself in a Genmoji kind of with a cool background that's kind of art style or maybe 3D style. So again, more of a for fun and an iMessage type of integration. And then when it comes to the actual new Siri, as well as the new Assistant and the ChatGPT integrations, that'll probably come as more betas on 18.1 do get released. Now, of course, I did mention that Apple's rolling this out slowly because they don't want anything detrimental to happen when it comes to the release, and they want to be able to have everything in control, kind of go through all the processes of testing, make sure that every situation has been accounted for that can happen when it comes to Apple Intelligence. But there's also, of course, a PR moment for them to be able to do this as well, because when it comes to iOS and iPadOS 18, that'll still release probably in the September timeframe, and it's going to release in conjunction with the announcement of things like the iPhone 16 lineup, the new Watch lineup, and a bunch of other things that Apple's going to be talking about in their September keynote. So that's going to get a whole wave of news press, a whole bunch of positive PR, people wanting to upgrade to their iPhones to be able to use Apple Intelligence. But then come October, which is usually kind of a slower month when it comes to Apple's product releases and software releases, they're going to have a whole new cycle with 18.1 being released and all the new Apple Intelligence features that are going to be able to be used with that new hardware. So I do want to mention the support when it comes to Apple Intelligence. So basically, if you have an M-powered device, whether that is a Mac Mini, a MacBook Pro, or an M1 iPad Air or iPad Pro, those will all be supported and be able to use Apple AI. So an M series computer or newer, M series iPad or newer will be able to support that. But then when it comes to the iPhone side, as of right now, the only iPhones that will be able to support that is going to be on the A17 Pro chip, which means it's going to be the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the iPhone 15 Pro. So what that means is, unfortunately, if you just purchase an iPhone 15 or 15 Plus, that will not have Apple Intelligence support built in because it doesn't have the correct chipset or the power to do it. Now, we're not sure if there's going to be some sort of staggered approach. Maybe some of the stuff like Genmojis will be able to come over, but I really do think that Apple's going to keep this on the A17 Pro or newer, which means that when the iPhone 16 lineup is released, it'll probably have the A17 Pro on the cheaper models, and then an A18 Pro on the 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max. So people are going to want to upgrade to those newer phones just because of Apple Intelligence. So again, there's a reason to the madness, and a reason why Apple's going to be doing this is to get more sales down the line and get just more PR as well as more hype between the software and the hardware being released in that September-October timeframe. So that is what we know so far when it comes to Apple Intelligence and when it's going to be released, what the approach is by Apple to release it. Again, we're probably going to get an 18.1 beta update either this week or next week on iOS and iPadOS devices, as well as probably macOS Sequoia, as well as watchOS 11 and things like that. So we will be testing it, and I will be the first to actually put it on my device and see exactly what it's like. But as I said earlier, it's going to be a staggered release in terms of the feature sets that we get with Apple Intelligence, which again, I don't know how to feel about that. Maybe Apple's just really making sure that from a testing perspective, everything's going to work how they want it to work, and they don't want any loose ends at the end of the day for anything detrimental to happen in their situation. So let's see how Apple actually approaches this moving forward. And it is unfortunate that Apple Intelligence will not be supported by even the newest Apple devices like an iPhone 15 or an iPhone 15 Plus. So if you do want to get Apple Intelligence and be able to use it, you're going to have to get a new iPhone unless you have a 15 Pro or 15 Pro Max. But let me know in the comment down below. Are you excited for Apple Intelligence? What are your thoughts on AI in general? Do you think Apple's going to do it correctly to make sure that, again, nothing goes out of control and it's kind of siloed in their Apple ecosystem? Apple's going to do it the way that they want to do it, and they're going to be releasing it the way that they want to release it in order to keep control of a feature or something that's kind of uncontrollable now at this point. But that'll do it, everybody. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. I'm kind of excited to see what all the hype is about, to see if I can actually use it day to day, and to implement it in a way that makes me feel like I'm not actually using AI, but it's going to be just making my day to day that much easier. I think that's going to be the perfect implementation, and let's see if Apple can do it. But if you guys want to watch more videos like this one, YouTube thinks you're going to like this video right here. If not, I chose this video specifically for you to check out to see if maybe you're going to end up liking it. But that'll do it, everybody. I'm Fernando, and I'm out of here. Peace.